So a client reached out to me wondering if I could do alterations on her wedding gown that she had custom ordered. I said, "What exactly do you need?" She said, "I can't fit the dress." I was like, "Now you said this was a custom made dress, so why don't you send the dress back to the designer so that they could do the alterations? Because usually they do that." She was like, "The wedding is actually in 10 days and it was ordered overseas, so she couldn't send it back and then have it shipped back in time for the wedding." And she went on and said that they had made allowance for alterations, so she just needed to find someone within the local area to help her. I was like, "Have you tried some bridal stores? Maybe they could help you out." She was like, "No one would take me because of the short amount of time to the wedding and the type of dress that it is." I was like, "Okay, do you have pictures of what's going on? Let me see, and let me see if it's something that I can actually help you with." So this was the picture that she sent me. All right. I was like, "Can you like put it on from the bottom going down?" And she was like, "No." And this is the dress from the front. Again, because of the way the dress was designed, there was nowhere, no way for her to go in from the top going down. So she had to go in like that, like step into the dress. I was like, I don't know, 10 days? I don't even know if I have the skills to be able to do alterations on this dress. I was like, all right, come on over. Let's see if there's anything that I can do. I'm not promising anything, but I just want to see if there's anything that I can actually do. So she came in solemn. I knew she had been crying. I mean, I would have been crying. And I actually did because I was like 10 days to the wedding and this is your like dream dress. And I won't lie, the dress was amazing. It was a gorgeous dress, very well made, but it was just a crazy situation. So she managed to come in and I looked at the dress. The only solution that I could come up with was to do the corset lace up ties, and that's the way the dress was actually made. If you can see on the sides, it has the loops and it came with some ties. But we just needed her to get the dress up to this point so that I could see if the dress actually like fits her body, and that was the only part in the back that we needed to worry about. So I went ahead and opened the dress from the top where it was closed to the bottom of the ruffles, opened that up because I needed to see if she could actually pull up the dress to the top. So she did. She came in. She did. It was more tears because that was success. Just, I mean, one step in the right direction. So the next thing was for me to add loops all the way down because that was the only other solution. This was not about perfection. This was about her getting into the dress, closing it up, and walking down that aisle. So next step was the loop. So how did I know that this dress was well made? Well, firstly, there was enough seam allowance left. I think it was about an inch or so, but not that that was going to do anything because that still wasn't enough to make a difference for the dress. And then secondly, I had the hardest time seam ripping that little area that you saw. I used the seam ripper. I used blades, not budging. The thread was intact. It was not budging, but I found a way and I managed to open it up. Also, I chose to do the lace back corset thing because I thought I could let out the dress on the sides, which was going to be impossible because of the beading. That would mean I would have to cut into the beading, and the beading was already, some of it was coming off, and I didn't want things to start unraveling. So I just left that and said, let's focus on the back, the lace up ties, and get you into the dress and down that aisle. So I went ahead and cut up some loops or fabric string to create the loops, but I abandoned that project quickly because I wanted to work smart, not hard. I was going to be there the whole week. So I did this instead. So instead of cutting them, I just looped them all through the dress so that I didn't have to worry about putting each of those individually. I don't know if that really made a difference, but for me, it did. It really did. It really did. And I actually ended up just mixing both of the methods. So a continuous loop and the cutout pieces. Yes. Also, because of the beading and the heaviness of the dress, I had to hand sew all of this. Yeah, hand sewing it was. The dress was, I would say, about 40 pounds. So imagine me lifting 40 pounds of dress to sew in that. I actually had to use a little bit of this sewing machine because it was more mobile. I could move it around, and I put it on the floor, and where I could sew, where there wasn't any beading, that's what I used. So she came in for her next fitting, and I wanted to see if it was actually going to lace up. So this is what we had here. I managed to lace it up. Now the sewing gurus and all of those people who are the aficionados are going to say, oh my gosh, it should have been the same color of the dress. You should have used, you always want to use matching fabric. I totally understand. But where was I going to get matching fabric in 7 days? I only have 2 fabric stores here in the Memphis area, and none of them had the fabric that I needed. So we used what we had, and that was like white fabric instead of the off-white. And I could see that you could see it was a noticeable difference, but I was like, okay, let me make the ties. Let me add some rhinestones, some bling to the ties so it doesn't look so much, so that the color doesn't look so much off. But yeah, I felt that this was a good enough solution. So added the rhinestones so that it could match the rest of the dress, added it onto the lace ties, and I feel that that was actually a good solution. So that was pretty much the alterations that I did. Did she finally walk down the aisle in her altered dress? Yes, she finally did. So that is her in the dress. Now, if you can see, the ties aren't evenly tied. And I had asked her, I'm like, what happened? I thought I showed you. And actually, her aunt came on her last fitting. Her aunt came and we tied the dress up, and she kind of knew what was how it was supposed to be tied. And so I was like, what happened? It looks like you missed a few loops there. I mean, it closed up and it looks really good, but what happened? And she was like, listen, they ran out of time. And so she was like, just tie it as quickly as you can. And as long as everything's closed, nothing is showing, I can walk down that aisle. So this is her in the dress, finally wore it for her wedding, and her day was saved. The designer actually refunded her money for all of this stress because in actual fact, it was a custom dress that didn't fit. I would have probably given her a partial refund to cover the costs of the alterations, but I guess it was just, it was a lot going on, and she just felt that she was going to refund the total, I think it was the total amount of the dress. So I hope you enjoyed that throwback story of the alterations that I did. And what do you think? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Be blessed, but always remember, be a blessing.